Hey guys, so you might be wondering, why am I doing a TV show review when my channel is primarily about movies? Well, that's a very good question. Basically, I've been wanting to do TV show reviews for quite a while now, but I just haven't found the right TV show to start with. Because for me to get into a TV show, it has to be really good. There isn't that many good TV shows that I've really got into. I mean, with the exception of Breaking Bad, I've never really been hooked from season 1 onwards. So this show has to be really good for me to get into it. And there were a couple last year that I watched, and I was thinking I could start with that. But then Vinyl came along. Vinyl is HBO's newest series, and it finished very recently, and it stars the likes of Bobby Cannavale, Olivia Wilde, Juno Temple, PJ Byrne, Ray Romano, James Jagger, just to name a few. And if that doesn't get you sold, the fact that it's set around the 70s music industry, and it is created by none other than Martin Scorsese and Mick Jagger. I mean, if that doesn't sell you on this show, then I don't know what will. The idea of the show and the concept of it sold me from the moment I heard about it. I mean, I'm a massive Martin Scorsese fan, and I love the Rolling Stones, so to see the fact that they've both come together to create this show is mind-blowing, and the end product is just so typical of both of them. There are elements of both Mick Jagger and Martin Scorsese in this show. But that's not what makes this show so good. There are several elements that just work so well in this show that make it a great show from start to finish. However, it's not perfect. However, before I get onto that, I'm just going to talk about what makes this show so good. So the show is based around this one guy called Richie Finestra, who is the boss of American Century Records. And at the very start of the series, they're considering selling to this German company. However, after Richie has this kind of revelation and starts to remember back of why he loved music in the first place, he screws over that contract and wants to kind of re-energize the company and make them what made them great in the first place. However, that's not it. Richie also has to deal with drug problems, marital problems, and also starting this sub-label called Alibi Records, which all just culminates into this massive shitfest that he doesn't know how to handle. And I thought that was a really good thing that they did well in the show, because there are some moments where he's likeable. I mean, like throughout the whole show, he is likeable in kind of an arsehole way. He's just trying to get his job done. But seeing that all these other problems keep sneaking in and distracting him makes it more frustrating for him and more frustrating for us, because we're with him every step of the way. And the reason we are with him every step of the way is because of Bobby Cannavale's fantastic lead performance as Richie Finestra. You really buy into his methods of how he works, and also the frustrations that come along with just everything piling on him at once in the worst possible way, and the fact that he doesn't really know how to handle it, but eventually he does. But it's just the ways that he thinks of how to deal with each thing individually, and how he copes with people who are some right arseholes is really intriguing to watch. Olivia Wilde is really good as his wife, Devon. She can come across as a bit of a bitch at times, but there are reasons for her bitchiness. Ray Romano is also really good in the show. However, I really can't take him seriously, because whenever he talks, all I imagine is Manny the Mammoth from the Ice Age films. Juno Temple and PJ Byrne were really good as well, but the one actor that surprised me the most was James Jagger, Mick Jagger's son, who I didn't actually know was an actor, and this is probably his biggest role to date, and he did a really good job. I mean, throughout the series he doesn't get much time to shine, but towards the later episodes he really does become his own kind of greatness. The whole series is directed really well, and it does feel like a Martin Scorsese production. From the long takes to the stylish tone, there are so many elements that make it a Martin Scorsese thing. I mean, he only directed the first episode, but the whole series has all the typical traits of a Scorsese film or show. Also, it wouldn't be a Scorsese production if it didn't have sex, drugs, lots of swearing, family drama, and even the occasional bit of violence, because there are the odd bit of violence throughout the series, like it happens once or twice throughout the whole show. And when it happens, it does come as a shock, because it happens very rarely throughout the show. When something very violent happens, you don't really know what to think, and it does take a while for it to kind of sink in. Also, seeing that this is a show about music and it's done by Scorsese and Jagger, the soundtrack is obviously going to be really good, and I wouldn't be lying to you by saying that this soundtrack is fantastic. I mean, you've got all the classic 70s tracks that are there, as well as some new artists that are making songs for the show specifically, but they are very stylish and very 70s oriented, so they never feel out of place when they do appear in the show. Also, it's not just rock and roll that is approached in this show, because they tackle a lot of different genres like reggae and disco and funk and soul, and that is the soundtrack as well. It's not just rock, it's all those other ones combined it into one and played at the right times, and it just feels great. In terms of flaws, I do have a couple. The pacing is quite slow throughout the whole series. I mean, the opening 2-hour-long episode is definitely the slowest the show gets. And I really didn't think it had to be 2 hours long. I mean, it's the only episode directed by Martin Scorsese, which is great and all, but just doesn't go anywhere fast. I mean, it gets really good towards the later half of that episode, but for the rest of it, it's just like, oh, come on, pick up, for crying out loud. I do think they would have been better by splitting the first episode into like a two-parter, because every episode in the series is about an hour long. So the fact that that opening episode is about 2 hours long and feels like it's 2 hours long, they really couldn't have done with that. And if you think it's just the opening episode that's slow, the rest of the series is pretty slow as well, with the exception of the last 2 episodes that do pick up the pace and kick things into gear so you're ready for Series 2. And I do think that the season finale is absolutely fantastic. Also, another little problem that I had with this, and this is just something that kind of annoyed me throughout the series, is that every so often a scene will happen and a bit of music will start playing from someone from the 70s, and rather than just having the music play, that artist will appear in like a dreamlike setting, and it feels really out of place at times. Like, there's one bit where Richie, I can't remember what episode it is, but Richie's just come out of a meeting and Janis Joplin just comes out of nowhere in the office and just starts singing. Really doesn't make any sense. I can see what they were trying to go for, but most of the time it just kind of feels a bit awkward, doesn't really work, and didn't really need to be there. Also, talking about music stars, there are quite a lot of cameos in this show, and most of them do work. I mean, there are a couple that don't, but the ones that are there and the ones that are not there for long kind of do. Because it's a show about the music industry, you're of course going to get the odd famous artist popping up here and there, and you get these actors playing the likes of Alice Cooper, John Lennon, David Bowie, and some of them are good. The guy who plays John Lennon and the guy who plays Alice Cooper, really good. David Bowie one, not so much, and there's a couple of others throughout the series. Some are good, some are bad. I thought the Elvis one was pretty funny, but again, it was more of a parody than an actual impersonation, even though it was good. I mean, I'm not doubting that it was good, but I don't know, there are a couple of times where you can kind of get what they were going for, but the guy who's trying to do an impersonation of said artist isn't really doing it that well. Also, one final flaw that I have with this show is that, seeing that it's a show about the music industry, you'd expect it to solely concentrate on that, which it does for the most part. However, they attempt to bring in this side story involving Richie that involves the mafia, and it kind of works. I mean, towards the end of the series it does work because it is sort of wrapped up in a nice bow in its own story, but it's still left open to interpretation. However, for a show about the music industry, you want it to kind of concentrate more on that. I mean, the other side stories, like Richie's drug problem and his marriage problems with Devon, do really work because it fits in with Richie's struggles. However, the mafia aspect kind of does feel a bit out of place at times. There are moments where it works really well, but there are other moments when you're just like, can we just skip this and get to the good bits? However, overall, I enjoyed the hell out of Vinyl Season 1. I'm looking forward to Season 2. I thought they did a great job. All the acting is superb, minus a couple of cameos, and some of the musical interlude bits didn't quite make a lot of sense, and the pacing could have been bumped up a bit because it was quite slow. However, I thought Vinyl Season 1 was a really good start to what I think will be a great series, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. If you're a fan of music, or if you're just a fan of good TV shows or Scorsese in general, then I think you'll love this show. Anyway guys, that was my first ever TV show review for the series Vinyl. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more TV show reviews, then like this video and comment below if you want to see more of this type of video. Also subscribe for more content, and before I end this video I just want to say a massive thank you to all the support I've been getting on Easy Targets. I mean, I just thank you so much. It turned out much better than I thought it would, and I'm so pleased with what it looks like and how it turned out, and I just want to thank you, every single one of you, for your good feedback, your good support. Just thank you so much. It wasn't easy, but we did it in the end, and I'm just so pleased that it turned out as well as it did. Anyway, with that out of the way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.